Evening all, welcome to Sins of a Solar Empire. This is a game that I've played the bejesus out of. I have played this game so many times. I have invested hundreds and hundreds of man hours into it. And it's brilliant and I love it. And I guess it's a kind of 4X multiplayer, no not multiplayer, single player stroke multiplayer space colonization exploration game. And
that was a mouthful.
It bloody well was. But let me show you why it's very good. So what I've done is I've started a new map here. I've got my little space empire and I'm starting to build a little kind of foothold into other star systems. This game I think is a real unusual game because
looks like Eve.
It's very different to Eve. I mean, so look, we're actually now being stormed by pirates. So this is what I've just cut to. And I've got capital ships. I've got the capital ship basically defending my base. And I've got my fleet rushing to come help because obviously this is just a single capital ship going up against a pirate fleet. The reason I think games like this are so good and that they should just be part of your Steam library right now is because they are, I think, some of the more deeper games. Any game that you can play that will take you and immerse you completely within the game for days has my thumbs up. I mean, there's very few games that will keep you going for longer than a couple of days. And I think a game like this has the ability just to make the game such a deep experience. And I think this is one of my finest examples of space gaming done right. And it was released in multiple patches. It was released first with a simple, kind of launch. And then what they've done, each patch, because they've released 3 expansions, is they've made it better and better and better to the point now where it's like StarCraft in effect, where two skilled players could stalemate each other in this massive intergalactic war. And I think it's just absolutely worthy of position in our advent.
Okay. I have to admit, I haven't actually played any of these types of space games. I really should. I mean, obviously Space Invaders was probably the first, but it does look quite fascinating. I just haven't got a chance to. So far, I was playing that Elite game, which obviously recently I've been slightly disappointed about, but I couldn't get the spaceship out.
You couldn't undock, basically.
Yeah.
It's a good example where Elite is. I mean, it's a similar game to Elite where you could just spend days immersed in this game. Elite is different because that is a much more, I guess, RPG style game, whereas this is a strategic game.
It's a bit like Age of Civilization or Age of Empire.
Civilization. This is exactly like Civilization.
Except it's in space. But absolutely. Literally, I think some of the backdrops for them and everything is quite. I like the idea of being able to navigate in space.
Well, it's also the empire building piece as well, because eventually you'll have hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, but you'll have dozens of planets under your control, your empire, and then you'll have to trade off their security versus winning a war or pushing forward into enemy space. And I've got to admit, there's very few games out there that really do push stalemate like this. Usually you can just power play, you get your most expensive units, you put them in one big fleet and then you send them into the enemy territory. And you used to be able to do that in this game, but not anymore. So I think this is a real quite kind of, I don't know, I think it's an exciting game where you can just do so much more than just a normal strategic game.
Sounds good.
I'll get you a license of it. It's well worth a look. It is, I think. I mean, again, this is where I think currently space games seem to be coming back into fashion. You've got obviously Elite. Sins of a Solar Empire has always been a very good, strong game, and people have always raved about it because, I mean, obviously the fleet fights are quite nice. It is, again, there's a game called Endless Space, which was very similar to this, but it was turn-based, and this is where I think, again, mechanics really come into it. I don't like turn-based space games like Endless Space. I prefer real-time strategy style games like this. So there's no stopping, there's no pausing. It really is just a fight all the way through. So I think it's a great game. I think these are the kind of games that I think really I'd love to have done a series of, but each individual war. So you can start a war with, say, 5 or 6 different solar systems and then different galaxies. Or rather, solar systems and then hundreds of planets effectively in a single map. You could be playing for a month before you ever win. In fact, you may never win. and you could end up just being completely stalemated by 3 or 4 different empires. So, brilliant masterpiece of design.
Okay. I think one problem is you hit the nail on the head in the fact that it's one of those games that you could be lost playing it for hours, and unfortunately I don't have that luxury of time anymore where I can sit and play for hours on end. But it's not an actual live game, is it? You're not playing real people.
You could save and then come back, yeah.
But it's not real. It's not a real game.
No, it's not real.
No, a live game, so anyone you can play real people.
Well, you can do, but then that would be a different thing. No, you could play. I mean, I generally have always played these games offline, so I'm only really. Oh, look, I just lost my capital ship. Look, went boom. But I think the beauty of these games is that you can just return to them over time. So it's more. This is why it's more of an RTS RPG in my mind. It's tricky because there's a few variants of this that were quite good, like Star Drive. Was it Star Drive? I think it was Star Drive. I think we featured that last year, and I think that was probably one of the finest 4X RPG RTSs ever. But having said that, I still think Sins of a Solar Empire has maybe just got it slightly. So what do you think?
I think it's pretty good. Yeah.
There we go, thumbs up. Let's see what tomorrow brings.